Hello, and welcome to the Ethanol Producer Magazine podcast. I'm your host, Anna Simet. We're here at the International Fuel Ethanol Workshop and Expo in St. Louis. I'm here with Jordan Kearns, Executive Vice President of Project Development at Antora Energy. Jordan, hello, and welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Anna. It's great to be here.
We're so glad to have you here at the show. I think, Jordan, let's start at the top. For our listeners who haven't come across thermal energy storage before, tell us what it is and then what Antora does.
Yeah, so Antora Energy has a technology, and we develop projects around that technology to deliver zero-emission steam to industry broadly, and specifically we've been doing a lot of work in ethanol and renewable fuels, and that's what we're really excited about. Our technology is thermal energy storage. What that means is we take off-peak electricity from the grid whenever there's a surplus of electricity available due to just supply and demand imbalance. We take that energy and we store it in our thermal batteries, which are just made of carbon. And I've actually brought some here for you, Anna.
This is cool.
Oh, thank you, yeah. If you hold it, you might actually feel it's a little cold, and that's because it's really thermally conductive. So what we do is we take in electricity, we convert it into heat just using a toaster coil like you might have in a toaster at home, and heat that carbon up to very, very high temperatures. We can then store that carbon within an insulated container, and even when the low-priced electricity goes away, we still have that reserve of stored electricity, of stored energy in the temperature of that carbon block. So we basically have a thermal reservoir that we can be pulling from to generate steam continuously for industry. So basically, it's a drop-in replacement or supplement to a natural gas boiler that every plant's going to have. Whereas a natural gas boiler is going to take in a continuous stream of natural gas, combust that to produce a continuous stream of steam. We take in intermittently available low-cost electricity, store that as heat in the thermal battery, and then pull out that same continuous stream of steam that you're going to get from a gas boiler, except we're making this with zero emissions, but at a price point that's comparable to natural gas, which is really exciting for producers, that we can go in and put something in place that's going to be really producing the same steam that they already run their plant on, but at the same price point, but with zero emissions.
Wow. Okay, so interesting. So Jordan, with that as the foundation, I do want to congratulate you on your recent announcement with Poet, Project Big Stone. Is it correct that it's one of the largest battery storage systems in the world? Can you tell us a little bit more about that project?
Right. The technology that we're using with thermal energy storage is inherently very energy dense. So this project is about 5 gigawatt hours, which makes it one of the largest energy storage projects globally, which is phenomenal. This is our first full-scale commercial deployment, and already we're setting records in many dimensions. That's very exciting. That's really just inherent due to the extreme energy density that you're able to get with the carbon graphite and the thermal storage. What's really exciting about that is that means we can store enough energy to run all of the steam demands for that plant for multiple days, which is a tremendous amount of energy when you think about it.
Right.
That plant, typical 100 million gallon a year plant, will use in the order of 170,000 pounds per hour of steam. We can charge up our system and produce that rateable amount of steam for multiple days without consuming any additional electricity, just from the energy stored in the carbon blocks. That's really phenomenal. So 170,000 pounds per hour of output in megawatts, that's about 50 megawatts of energy output. But yeah, 5 gigawatt hours, that makes it one of the largest projects from an energy storage standpoint globally. Well, one of the ways that I help people understand what we're doing here is you can almost imagine if we had a whole ag economy without grain storage. Imagine if you were having to harvest all of your corn in the fall, and you didn't have any way to store that grain throughout the year. That's sort of how the electricity system operates right now. If there's a surplus of energy on the grid, maybe driven by low demand on a mild spring or fall day, or maybe driven by excess amounts of wind, all of that energy gets dumped onto the grid, but there's no grain storage, to use the farm analogy. So when that happens, the price of electricity gets extremely low. In many cases, actually, the price of electricity gets so low that it's not even worth harvesting the electricity. It's called curtailment in the electricity sector. So the analogy I give to farmers, to ethanol plant operators, is imagine you're in a situation where you harvest your corn and 30% of the corn that you harvest has zero value because there's no way to store it, no grain bins. That's basically how the electricity grid operates. We produce all this electricity, but at times there's a mismatch of supply and demand.
Right.
That might mean you have a wind farm that has to turn off even though it's a windy day, and we can't extract that energy even though it's already there and built and paid for. we have to just throw away perfectly good, useful energy. That's what a system looks like that doesn't have the benefits of storage. And that's what we're bringing, is storage at scale that can take that surplus, that imbalance of electricity, and put it to beneficial use. So we're really excited about what we've done there. It's great for the plant. For the plant, we're able to go and improve competitiveness. We're able to, obviously Poet wouldn't have entered into the agreement to use this if it wasn't beneficial for them. They're operators like all of us, and it's got to make sense financially. We're proud of what we've been able to do there. We're really excited about the CI reductions at that plant. We're looking at about a 20-point CI reduction from removing the emissions associated with steam. We're also excited in this case we were able to help the plant shift to some increased production, which is great for the local economy, increased grain demand for local farmers, which we're really excited about. And during construction, this is a large infrastructure project. Again, one of the largest energy storage projects in the world. At peak, we had about 300 people on the construction team mobilized, which is a really impressive thing for the economy there in Big Stone City, South Dakota.
Right, no doubt. Really well explained, Jordan. So curious, what led Antora to focus on the ethanol industry for these major projects? And how is the project with an ethanol plant structured?
Yeah, we're really proud of what we built out in Big Stone. It's really the culmination of a vision that our team has had for a very, very long time. And there's just an amazing coincidence of opportunities really that make ethanol a great application of thermal energy storage. So technically, like I said, this is a supplement or a replacement to a gas boiler that you might find in any industrial process. But what makes ethanol in particular interesting as an application is the fact that there's an amazing geographic coincidence between the surplus energy I was talking about, that energy that we often throw away because we have no way to store it.
Yep.
There's an amazing coincidence between where that occurs and where corn production and ethanol production occur. So a lot of this is driven by, you say, seasonal variation, but also a lot by wind. So you might have a windy day, and you might have more wind in the Midwest or in the Great Plains region than can be made use of in the local grid. A lot of that gets wasted. We're able to go and use that in the thermal storage. So there's most ethanol plants in the country are near areas where there is this sort of frequent imbalance that results in the availability of very low-priced electricity that we can put to beneficial use.
Yep.
So that's one reason. The second reason is obviously ethanol plants are very interested in reducing CI. That's been a theme in the industry for over a decade. That's something that has become even more important with the 45Z incentive. Yep. Producers are really dialed in on that. So there's a particular incentive within this industry for reduction of CI and reduction of emissions, and that's obviously one of the great benefits of our system. Mm-hmm. So you combine that with the availability of the low cost power, and that's really the marriage that makes this happen.
Yeah. Okay. You talked about this a little bit already. We know that ethanol plants use quite a bit of energy. Where does the power actually come from to charge these batteries?
Yeah, in general, this is an electric resistance heater held up to some carbon blocks. The electricity can come from any source that might be available, anything that might be driving that imbalance, where there's a surplus on the grid. We can take advantage of it. For the project in Big Stone specifically, we're partnering with some nearby wind resources that have frequent periods of surplus that we're able to take advantage of, and also help use that to drive the carbon intensity lower. That's something that is really repeatable across a lot of plants. As I just mentioned, you have a lot of ethanol plants that are in these regions of frequent imbalance of electricity markets where storage can kind of come in, buy low, use that inexpensive electricity that's abundant in their local community, and put it to beneficial use within the community.
Okay. So let's get into what this means for the fuel coming out of the plant. For a plant that adopts Antora's system, the ethanol produced will have a significantly lower carbon intensity score.
Sure.
In a market where
15 to 30 points typically, depending on the configuration of the plant.
Yep.
I mentioned a typical project about the size of what we just did out in Big Stone would be about 20.
Yep.
But depending on the exact configuration, 15 to 30 points is typically what producers can expect.
Okay, that's impressive. In a market where CI reduction is increasingly valuable, how does that change the competitive picture for a producer?
Sure. I mean, every commodity producer wants to find ways to differentiate and break out of commodity pricing. And lower CI is a great way to do that. Obviously, producers have been exploring many new markets for ethanol, many new markets for American agricultural products. People obviously talk about SAF as a major major new market, marine fuel. Obviously, there's opportunity for differentiation just as a vehicle fuel within low carbon fuel standards markets out on the West Coast, and obviously Mexico and other states have been adding to that. So what you want as a commodity producer, obviously, is the ability to have sort of a head and shoulders differentiation between you and the rest of the market, so that even in the lean times, you're in a very strong and profitable position. Low CI is a way to open those new markets, tap into those low carbon fuel standards markets, maximize 45Z credits. Really, it just bolsters the bottom line across, makes your plant and operations more resilient just by having that ability to differentiate yourself from what might be more commodity ethanol. Mm-hmm. That's fundamentally what we're bringing. We can do that at a price point that's cost competitive, so you're not disadvantaging yourself if you're not able to go into those markets. Obviously, there's been a lot of promise, and a lot of those markets have taken longer to materialize than producers have hoped. But what's great about our offering is that there's really not a disadvantage to the producer. We're not asking you to come in and pay a massive green premium for something that might materialize or might not. We're saying, hey, we can do something that's cost competitive with natural gas, and if these low carbon benefits materialize, you'll be able to take advantage of that. I think everyone knows that's where the future is going, but people don't want to go too far out on a limb too soon and wind up maybe upside down paying a significant potential green premium for something that's not quite ready or really ready for them yet. So what's great is the fundamental value proposition of Antora. It's great that it's low emissions, but ultimately it's about dollars and cents. This is something that is cost competitive with natural gas. Mm-hmm. Our model for deploying this is a build, own, operate model. And what that means is we come in, we work with the plant, we develop a design, and we will lease land adjacent to the plant, co-locate. We lease or buy land adjacent to the plant, co-locate, and develop, build, own, and operate the system. We pay all of that, so it's a zero CapEx offering for the producer. We enter into what we call a steam purchase agreement. It's basically a long-term agreement that's saying, hey, we're going to make this capital investment with you, mm-hmm. with your plant, make it more competitive. In exchange, you're just going to agree to purchase steam from us for the long run. And we do that at a price point that's competitive with natural gas, plus we share in any of the low carbon value created from the lower CI that we're bringing to the plant. So really, we've tried to construct this in a way that's as low risk for the producer as possible, something where we say, hey, we understand, we're committing to you. We're building a massive infrastructure project at your plant. It'd be very expensive to tear that up and move it somewhere else. That's not ever what we want to do. What we're doing is we're saying, we're going to make a long-term commitment to your plant. We want you to be successful. We're going to match your current cost of energy. And hey, if there are low carbon incentives that you can monetize, we'll share in that together, split that upside. But if those things don't materialize, we're going to ride that with you. And we'll just be matching your current cost of carbon intensive energy.
So in order for you guys to win, the producer has to win too.
Yeah, that's a key part of the Antora philosophy. We're looking for transaction structures here that are a win-win.
Right. Okay. So you've proven that this works at commercial scale at 100+ million gallon per year plant. So let's say I'm an ethanol producer in Iowa or Nebraska or Indiana listening to this right now. What should I be thinking about? How repeatable is what you've done at Big Stone? And then another question is, are you looking at other, adjacent industries like SAF?
Yeah, those are all great questions. So what should you be thinking? I think there are two levels you should be looking at it. First is just at the plant level. Is this something that might make sense for your plant? Definitely very replicable. We already have an additional project under construction. We haven't announced who that's with or where that's at yet, but we already have a second follow-on project being built currently. We expect several others to be quickly following. We've got about a dozen in development across the Midwest. So this is something that is coming to the industry, and we think is going to grow really quickly now that we have this proof point. Yeah. As a producer, I'd be thinking, hey, in 27, 28, I can say with confidence that there are going to be multiple plants that are producing from Gen 1 corn ethanol, 100% of their production will be zero CI. 27, 28 through a combination of our technology, carbon capture and storage, other CI reducing technologies, climate smart ag, a combination of those things. With our technology, you'll be seeing zero CI production for 100% of an ethanol plant's output, which I think is really, really exciting. So as a producer, I'd be thinking, hey, this is where the market is going. We want to make sure that the producer might say, hey, we want to make sure that we stay on board, stay competitive with where the market is going. Maybe this is something we should be exploring. Yeah. In addition, I'd be saying at the industry-wide level, I think this is a really exciting way for the industry to expand potentially the political constituency that it has. Obviously, ethanol is a bit of a political animal.
It is.
There's a lot of strong political advocates and some political detractors. And one of the things that I think the industry could really benefit from is seeing potentially a wider political constituency and appealing to folks that traditionally maybe have not been political advocates in DC of this industry. And I think when you come in and say, hey, we've developed a fuel that is actually zero CI through a combination of technologies, including technologies like Antora's thermal storage, I think that really just broadens the base of public support for the fuel, particularly in areas that have maybe traditionally not been supporters of ethanol. We think that's just great for the entire industry. I know 45Z, for example, is expiring currently under 2029. One of the things that we're very excited to do with industry is to tell stories like the story at Big Stone, South Dakota, where we can come in and say, look, we made, you provided this incentive to industry, and here's what we've done with it. We've been good stewards of that. We've gone in and made large investments in energy storage, investments that benefit not only the plant and the local ag economy, but also benefit the grid. One of the things that's very important about that project, we worked closely with the local utility, Otter Tail Power. They've been a great partner, great to work with. And one of the things we did when we were working with them is say, hey, when we want to buy this low value electricity, we want to make sure that we're putting in more than we take out. Yes, we're going to get a favorable rate, a fair rate, because we're coming in only at these low impact times when the grid is in a surplus state. We back off and stop charging when the grid is constrained. And because of that flexibility, we're able to get a lower price of electricity, but we constructed this intentionally with Otter Tail in a way that we want to be scalable. And for it to be scalable, it's got to produce benefits for the whole community. So we explicitly have in that that we're putting in more than we take out. We're paying additional what we're called system benefit charges to ensure that the overall costs of the grid are now defrayed over a larger pool of consumers. And that's great. It's the same thing. Again, if you're a farmer, you have fixed costs, and if you can spread those fixed costs over higher yields, more acreage, your fixed costs get spread thinner, you're going to be a more profitable operation. It's the same idea for the grid. By spreading out their fixed costs over a larger pool of electricity consumption, costs can come down for everybody who's an electricity consumer, right? Just basically everybody. And that's great, especially in a moment where affordability is definitely top of mind for Americans and for politicians in DC. So really, I think what we've done here is something that is, it's a win for the producer, it's a win for the grid, it's a win from an emissions standpoint. We think this is something that has a broad base of support. We've been really successful in telling our story and the story of Big Stone to people on both sides of the aisle. We think that's really powerful. We're really excited to bring that through to the bring that message with producers to Washington. That was the first part of your question. What was at the bottom part?
Other
there?
industries or biofuel plants? Like, are you guys looking at the SAF industry?
Yeah, certainly. So, like again, this is anywhere where steam is used is a potential application of our technology. So we've been looking at adjacent industries in renewable diesel, SAF. Obviously, alcohol to jet is exciting, but for alcohol to jet to work, I think everybody who's a producer who's done the math can look and see that math only makes sense if you're starting from ultra low CI ethanol. And again, the promise of zero carbon corn ethanol from a combination of Antora's thermal storage and other emission-reducing technologies, that is what we think will be one of the keys to potentially unlock growth in SAF and alcohol to jet. So we're very excited about that. And even further beyond, we're looking at applications in food processing and even applications that are purely focused on supporting the grid. Right now there's been massive build-outs and new demand for the grid, a lot driven by data centers. People are worried, how are we going to meet all this? How are we going to meet all this while ensuring affordability for the typical consumer who exists today? And we've been looking at partnering directly with utilities to say, how can we use this thermal storage just to help regulate the grid? Again, be that grain storage for the ag industry and for the corn industry, be that storage for electrons as opposed to kernels of corn, and use that to help levelize costs across the grid, reduce the costs of meeting new demand. It's an exciting time for us in Antora. We're committed though to the ethanol industry, so we're looking out at many applications. We're very excited about where this could go, how we can scale it, but we're particularly excited still. We selected this as the first industry for a reason. Yep. We're scaling deeply within ethanol. We're very excited about what we can do here. So if I'm a producer, the question I would be asking is, like, as you look across the suite of available technologies, and obviously, look, and I'm biased, but I think it's hard-pressed to find another technology that's going to be as low risk to get this big of a chunk out of your CI in a pretty short time frame. What we've demonstrated at Big Stone, again, I mean, we're incredibly proud, as I've said multiple times already, if you can't tell, of what we've done there. But we were able to go from an empty lot to delivery in less than 1 year.
Right.
So we've demonstrated our ability as a partner that Antora Energy can execute at a scale that is relevant to producers on a time frame that is relevant to producers, and really take a big chunk out of CI while there are incentives like 45Z available. So if I'm a producer looking around, hey, what can I do to maximize the value of my ethanol? What can I do to maximize the value of this 45Z credits while it's available? I'd be taking a hard look at what we're doing here. I'd be happy to talk to any producer that's interested in our technology.
So speaking of that, how can people get a hold of you? People watching, where do they learn more?
Yeah, I first start at the Antora website, antora.com. That's ANTORA.com. I'm sure we can make my information available in any description on the podcast links, and we can put that there. I'd be happy to talk to anyone who's interested in discussing what Antora might be able to do for their operation.
Okay. Well, Jordan, this has been really fascinating discussion, and I really look forward to following you guys and the Project Big Stone and see what you guys do next. Anything else that you want to add before we wrap it up?
No, I think we covered it, and I thank you so much for taking the time today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for being here at the show. Appreciate it.
It's been great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Until next time.